Hey, what's up guys? Bloody Jacob here to bring you a video talking about Season 1 of The Expanse on Syfy. I know the show just got into Season 2, but I finished Season 1 fairly recently. And I just wanted to do a video sort of giving my thoughts on Season 1 as well as the first couple episodes we've gotten of Season 2 thus far. Now this is a show, I did do a video on the first episode premiere back in 2015. And I just sort of fell behind on, there's a lot of other stuff that was on my plate, and there has been since. But over the past month or so, I made a point to try and catch up and at least finish the first season. And I gotta say, I think it is a very solid show. It is pretty above the sci-fi stereotype, I think. No, I think Syfy as a network has gotten better over the years. It has things like Z Nation. It was a network to one of my favorite shows of all time, Being Human. And now with The Expanse, I feel like they're kind of taking another step into more, serious, scripted shows, unlike their original movies and things like that. I don't know. I'm not a big sci-fi fan. I never watched Battlestar Galactica or things like that. But what drew me to this show was the main cast member who plays Detective Miller on the show, Thomas Jane, who I absolutely loved as the Punisher. So just to know that he's the lead in an ongoing series, it made me interested to watch because I think he deserves a chance like that, a role like that. So that's what initially garnered my interest in the show, but I didn't expect to like it quite as much as I did. I won't say I absolutely loved The Expanse. There were some parts that were more interesting to me than others, which I'll talk about in a few minutes. But I definitely think it's a show that sort of, like I said, goes above what the stereotype for how people see sci-fi is. I might not have said that right, but hopefully you know what I mean. I'm not going to be able to explain all the details about the plot or anything like that. I'd just make myself look like an idiot if I tried to. But I'll redo the basis of the story. Set in a future where humanity has colonized the solar system, it follows United Nations executive Christian, police detective Miller, and ship's officer Jim Holden and his crew as they unravel a conspiracy that threatens peace in the system and survival of humanity. That's there's a lot more detail to it than that. It's kind of like a sci-fi action adventure mystery drama type of thing, and I think overall it works pretty well. With their setup of having sort of three protagonists in the way, or three point of view characters, really, I could say. Because you have Detective Miller on series, to start the show. You have Christian on Earth, part of the United Nations, and then you have Holden, out and about in space and stuff like that. So that's kind of that's a decent idea to cover more areas, more details about what's going on where. Game of Thrones does that all the time. But at times it can sort of divide depending on what characters you're interested in, what characters you're not as much. I'll say that, all the actors on the show are good, a very solid cast. Tom Jane, he's really good, I always like him. And Miller gets better and better as he goes along, as he investigates the Julie Mao thing, closer and closer. And then he has a moment particularly that sort of transforms him a little bit more. He comes off sort of like a Han Solo-esque character. I was waiting for him to sort of flip that Punisher switch. And there's a couple times where he does, in one particular moment at the start of Season 2 recently. But I sort of like how Tom Jane plays him. And Stephen Strait, the guy who plays Holden, I think does a pretty good job as well. And although, like I said, Christian, Miller, and Holden are our three perspective characters, I feel like Miller, Holden, and the rest of Miller's crew are sort of our main characters that we have to care about. With Christian, like I said, she's a perspective character. She's in a completely different area than the others, of course, on Earth. But I just feel like we develop more of a bond with Holden's crew and Miller. And also, I wasn't like as interested in what was going on with Christian this season, with the United Nations, the political part of that. Not that I thought it was like necessarily boring. I just didn't feel really interested in her character. Although I did appreciate the sort of dialogue and the maneuvering that went into that and such. And I think it'll probably get better as it goes along. But sometimes when like shit was going on, on their ship with Holden and his crew, or Miller's getting closer, to figuring out the case and such. Excuse me, and then they like cut to the United Nations thing on Earth. I was like, okay, come on, let's just get back to Miller. But again, it's all fine. It's all fairly well acted. With solid dialogue and such. So it's not like a huge deal. But my interest certainly wasn't with Christian this season. And as far as like the effects go for the show, I think it's a little bit above what people are probably used to from sci-fi. It's not like mind-blowing special effects or anything, but certainly a step or two above, what you would think, and especially when you would consider the budget sci-fi likely gives them. It's probably a pretty high-budget show, And that's something I'm a little bit worried about in the long run for the show, because, it doesn't draw in a whole lot of viewers, unfortunately, even though it is, a fairly good show. It premiered with just a little over 1 million viewers, and by the end of season 1, it was down to 500,000, and in season 2 right now, it's sort of around that same area, give or take. So I just hope it doesn't get canceled because the viewers aren't enough to outweigh like the budget cost and such. That's a concern. But still, it's definitely the show that's getting the most attention on their network right now. So I feel like they probably want to give it as much of a chance as they can, because it is being fairly well received. And how the story plays out in season 1, I thought was pretty good. I liked Julie Mao, what we've seen of her. She was played by Florence Faber. I probably butchered her name, but I thought she did a good job when we've seen her. She seemed to be a pretty entertaining character when Miller would see like footage of her and stuff like that. But of course, spoilers, she turns out to be dead, with what she discovered in the opening of the show, which we still don't fully know what's going on with that, some kind of other alien race or something, which should be cool going forward. And again, I'm not going to pretend to know everything that I've seen and things like that. I never read the books or anything. But, the fact that she just turned up dead, I thought was a little anticlimactic, because I was hoping that they'd find her and she'd eventually be a part of the group, and sort of like one of our lead characters. And, as Miller is searching for her, he sort of develops sort of like an infatuation or sort of a form of love for her. So I thought it was a little bit disappointing that she just turned up dead. It did some good stuff for Miller's character with his development, but I kind of wish she would have been alive, because I thought it was kind of a waste. I thought she could have been a good character, to follow. And I did feel bad for her when it showed her slowly being infected and slowly dying from whatever happened to her. But I would have preferred her alive, but it did sort of set the tone for the world going forward as well. And we also have Chad Coleman, as Fred Johnson, former UN Marine. He's turned leader of the OPA. He sort of has like a reputation for, a certain assault and stuff like that. And, and he does fairly well as well. He's getting a bigger role in season 2. Of course, he played Tyrese on The Walking Dead. I always liked him on that as far as his performance went. And I also like my other favorite character. My favorite character is definitely Miller, because of my enjoyment of Tom Jane. Like I said, Steven Strait as well, so I like Holden. But I also like Dominic Tipper as Naomi. She's an engineer of the Rocinante. That's the name of their ship. Holden's crew. And then I also like Amos, played by Wes, Chatham. I think he does a good job as well. He's sort of like our wild card, almost too aggressive character. But he sort of comes off like a mix of Shane and Daryl of, the Expanse. So he's definitely more of a wild card character. I like him. And then Alex, he's fine too. He's the pilot. And like I said, I definitely feel the most attachment, to Miller, Holden, and his crew. And when they converge, when their stories sort of, intersect more towards the later part of season 1, I think that's where the Expanse, really starts picking up a little bit more. I was always waiting for that. And when we finally see Miller, get onto the screen with Holden and such, and what takes place with that, it did give me a little bit of a spark when I was watching it. So I feel like the chemistry with Miller and the other characters, Jane's performance with the others, I think that works well, and it's good to see that that they know each other now, that they're probably going to be working together more into the future of the show. And they sort of develop a bond, late season 1, early season 2, but of course they have different agendas and such, or at least different perspectives with what they're trying to do. And the guy who played Barnes on The Strain, I don't know if you guys watch The Strain. That's an incredible show, by the way. But he played Corey Stoll's boss on The Strain, and I like when Tom Jane put him down. Just starting season 2. That's definitely a more Punisher-esque moment. I also want to give a lot of credit to the pilot episode too, Dulcinea. And because we had Kristen Hager on the show temporarily, I loved her as Nora on Being Human, and she was James Holden's girlfriend. But then the Canterbury is blown up, supposedly by Mars, but of course it's not exactly them, as we find out later. But just seeing the ship be completely blown up and these characters that we thought we were going to be seeing for a little while just get, boom, destroyed. I like what I did for the show. That sort of set the tone in another way as well to start it off. It's more and more common for shows, to kill off, supposedly main characters like that, but still I thought it worked. I also like the episodes where they are fighting on the Mars ship and stuff. The action is actually a little bit better than I expected it to be on the show when it does take place. And the mystery, like I said, I am still intrigued with it, although the Julie Mao thing I thought fell a little bit flat with the result, although I liked what it did for Miller's character. So, that's really all I have to say about it for now, without stumbling over my words a little bit more, but overall I definitely think it's a show worth watching. I'm not going to say, I'm not going to promise to review it week to week or anything like that. Like I said, the Christian part of it isn't that interesting to me, and there's some parts of it that I'm not as interested in as others, but it's definitely a show I might continue to watch, and if I do, I might do some videos on it down the road. But yeah, it's definitely a show worth your time. I know some more sci-fi fans will probably like it than I do, but I did like it. I'd rate it about a solid B, I think. So yeah, you can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.